Welcome to SYN 101. Self-inaugurated education, August 10, 2024. Comparing complexes. Synergetic mind effortlessly admits the barest tune-inable coherence, respecting the Synergetics mathematical energy systems generalized content. Other than daring to be naive and learning more about it over the years, my awareness nonetheless becomes more astute, probably because my brain is memory storing, incrementally calibrated potential adjustments of the a priori thought in a discoverable coordination to something in the design of my nature, and realizing the purpose of the coexistence with like-minded and unlike-minded observers. During this ongoing research, self-inaugurated writing project, education refers to variously contrived and disseminated content, including generalized content. Generalized content induces metaphysical generalized conceptual fields of thought in a discoverable correlation to the 6 positive and 6 negative degrees of freedom. To the best of my informed knowledge, the degrees of freedom are motion freedoms that correspond with an awareness of the tetrahedron and anticipatory design science reality projections. 6 motion freedoms: axial rotation, orbital rotation, inside outing, torque, expansion contraction, precession. With anticipatory design science awareness of these motion freedoms, Synergetic mind looks forward to eventually comprehending the integral essential integrations and differentiations that hopefully will evidence the applicable purposes of Bucky Fuller's 20th century discoveries to life on Earth. Synergetic mind's intuition interprets applications that can be directed toward realizations of omni-rational conceptual solutions to the world's problems. Such expectations induced my thinking self to imagine the cosmic hierarchy that is illustrated in Synergetics Color Plate 9 as a comprehensive solution, even though I still have no intuitive engineering skills, as I impulsively pay attention to seemingly inapplicable information. By chance, however, on a TV interview decades ago, as a Google executive was asked what a person would have to know to be hired at Google, his answer in so many words was icosahedron. They would know what an icosahedron is. So naturally, I associated the icosahedron with the internet, not then knowing about domains and the evolving networks increasingly encompassing technological expectations of the online user. Besides, I had already associated the icosahedron with R. Buckminster Fuller's jitterbug model. Since that time, I've lost track of the order of the recallable incidents. When I became aware of the icosahedron listed in the Cosmic Hierarchy poster, which I framed along with other illustrations purchased from the Fuller Institute way back then. The jitterbug model, when opened in full, goes from vector equilibrium to icosahedron to octahedron to tetrahedron as two hands hold it at one triangle, turning the upper hemisphere in the opposite direction of the lower hemisphere's triangle. That is folded flat, as the entire assembly can be folded congruently into one tetrahedron with all the vectors shown thus. It is not as anyone would expect someday to describe the experience in so many words in a recording on the internet. The point is that the observer's mentality is brain recording these geometries in motion. So logically, the geometry of thinking must be relevant to such articulations, which would be true for all articulations and observations, which our humanity tunes out, not valuing this inherent subconscious to conscious ability, primarily because we have been programmed to exclude what seems to have compelled Bucky Fuller to design models to prove his intricate curiosity. How angles and frequency eventually could identify all experience in terms of angles and frequencies. All of it correlates with transformations and intertransformations at every conceivable and imaginable experience. But not all of it is relevant to omni-rational cosmic to local problem solving, as almost everyone these days relies on computer technology and the internet, whether on a cell phone or a desktop or other types of computers. Unless we have heard of R. Buckminster Fuller's 20th century discoveries, delving into whatever strikes a recognizable chord of intuition's curiosity in search of truth, it will be of little to no interest. So I get this fact of self-evidence throughout TUCP, the Universal Communications Process. Popularization of information does not deter my self-determination to discover more. As more of the mysteriously, seemingly inexplicable corruptions continue, deluding most people in the world, myself included, until I learn more in the process. Then there is the rapidly spreading AI technology that seems to have supplanted what could have been the geometries and topologies as tetrahedra, octahedra, icosahedron as the internet was initially formed, and humans everywhere had yet to learn about these integral integrities at the rudimentary level of education that Bucky Fuller foresaw as conceptualities of nuclear physics. As it now stands, it is frustrating guesswork, since my hunch is that AI codes provide greater control of distributing and inhibiting information, which is geared toward controlling the money-making strategies and perhaps controlling governmental powers. Encouraged by Bucky Fuller to start with the whole, not the part, naturally, the whole world became an imaginable context, which is when it occurred to me that politics, religion, justice, and war are everywhere, as historically reenacting belief complexities. Consequently, and because Fuller referred to the womb of permitted ignorance, as I learned that the term womb is synonymous with matrix, from Latin for mater, mother. The natural conclusion permitted me to write the two acronyms. PRJWBCHM, Politics, Religion, Justice, War, Belief, Complexes, Hierarchical Matrix, and UIVMOFCH, Universe, Isotropic, Vector, Matrix, Operational Field, Cosmic Hierarchy. Furthermore, I associated the word complex with Dwight D. Eisenhower's admonition for us to beware of the military-industrial complex. Obviously, without realizing any future depth of discernment, I was relatively naive but tuned into what was going on back then despite having no experience whatsoever in anything political, and to this day I could classify myself as apolitical, albeit interested in the Universal Communications Process, TUCP, an acronym I wrote, which ought to include, not exclude, all clues to the human condition's potential equanimity experiences. By the way, vector equilibrium is the equanimity model. However, I distinctly remember admiring key figures shown in the news that could be respected because of what they stood for and how they were cherished as valuable humans, not then using the word human as I do now. Dwight D. Eisenhower is one such valuable human. He was the 34th President of the United States from 1953 to 1961. He was Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe, which I learned more about in Wikipedia. Logically, Fuller's isotropic vector matrix, a cosmic hierarchy, would never be the same as a military-industrial complex, and yet it must have some anticipatory internetworking communications potential because of Google's mentioning the icosahedron. This is how my thinking goes, and of course it is as unscientific as it gets and is more naive, but somehow adds together over time or drops out whatever is no longer of my concern. Coupled with my mentality associating the isotropic vector matrix, a cosmic hierarchy, and operational field complex, replete with energy quanta, as a differently conceptual contextual parameter from the PRJWBCHM, logically, in my way of thinking, the military relation to a war-making matrix cannot be the same, and in fact is millenniums apart. Millenniums ago, the PRJW relied on its own war-making conflicts. Therefore, its information gathering, local problem solving refers to those particular territorial functions, whereas UIVMOFCH is cosmic, logical, relying on the eternal generalized principles, patterning integrities as conceptual reasoning, imagines manifesting the most economical systems, which ideally would not emulate slave mentality conditioning and the divide to conquer, keep divided to keep conquered enmity-making strategies. Imaginably, UIVMOFCH is a future potential that historically, incrementally, and comparatively requires omnicomprehensive ephemeralization awareness, doing more with less energy per performed unit task as one anticipatory design science objective. To successfully happen everywhere, the world's PRJWBCHM must be obsoleted as all factors of it can be converted, not annihilated, into oblivion, within the contextual parameter that consciously is always forming a more perfect union as a realizable objective. The synergetic mind gives thought to such potential as the world's politics, religion, justice, and war show no inclination along these lines of thinking. Apparently, there is no cultivated interest in reducing the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of the reenacting articulations, as observers everywhere are only partially and preferentially informed of what is going on. In any case, UIV MOFCH applications can function omniconsiderately to reduce the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of observation and articulation by activating a cosmic accounting and awareness of general systems referential to the synergetic quantum modules as the regenerating resource. Why not visit Synergetics online? It is only a click away from learning more about universe and visualizing Synergetics color plate number 9. Until next time, thank you for your undivided attention, with a conscionable reminder to the most gullible humans in the world not to be so fixated that confuses governmental responsibilities with the foolish fancies that conceal the underway intention to control such freedom once the power is in those hands. A true leader puts its humanity before the playgrounds, fun and games, dance parties, cocktail hours. A true leader's ability to solve economic problems comes before the personality of a media-created celebrity, as such is done when promoting movie stars, and must always be intended for the survival of every generation. When the camera is turned off, and real-life day-to-day reality requires life-sustaining energy from the most reliable resources, not pretentious political platforms.